Most men listening to this aren't lazy. They're not weak. They're not incompetent. They are capable. And that's exactly why they're stuck. You're listening to the Be Better podcast. I'm Harrison Orr, and I've coached hundreds of men who can handle pressure everywhere else except where it matters. This work is about grounded presence and self-leadership. And why so many capable men get stuck in that stage of life where they've been successful in their career or their business. And that approach, that mentality that got them that success is then tried to apply to their home life, to their personal, traits, to their personal development. And it doesn't get them the results that they want. It often burns them out more than anything because they're doing more. If I just do more, if I just communicate better, if I understand her more, if I just do more, then it'll fix itself, right? They try to optimize for this outcome. And the competence actually creates the illusion that you should be able to fix this on your own, that you should be able to do this all on your own, that you're a smart and capable man. You should be able to just figure it out and just do it. But that is not the case. And so many men fall into that trap. And I know I used to be in that trap as well, of thinking that it's weak to have help. It's weak to ask for other people's support, for guidance, for something else, or to admit that their strategy isn't working, to admit that I've tried and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't know what I need to change, but I know that what I'm doing is not working. I know that I'm not happy. I know that I can be better. I know that there's got to be something else out there. But in my lens of life, in my brain, in the way that I think and see things, I'm not getting it. And it's interesting because there's most men recognize that in their careers, in their business, right? No one started a business or started a career from nothing. Everybody, either if you're in a career, highly likely you went to some form of education or training or degree, or someone had to teach you how to do what you do, how to think about what you do, how to actually do what you do. And then the same in business, right? Maybe you got to a certain level of business or of growth on your own, and then plateaued, stagnated, realized that the level of thinking that got me here isn't going to be the level of thinking that gets me there, right? It's so many times. I know my dad used to tell me this countless times. Dad was an accountant. And so you can imagine how many, especially tradespeople, he saw that went from being good at their trade to then trying to run their own business. They obviously did the work. They saw how much the boss was billing out, how much he was taking home, and thought, fuck, I could do that. Why not? And to a degree, you can, for sure. But they are very different skill sets, right? Being a carpenter, being a chef, being an electrician, being anything, and then running a business. They are very different skill sets. Not to say that you can't learn them, 100% you can. But it's different, right? Trying to apply the same approach will not work. And even in that kind of growth, a lot of those men find it difficult to then transition into being the business owner, not the guy on the tools. Considering that's usually what they were good at and what they love doing. Now, instead of being physical, moving around all day, getting dirty, now they're sitting at a desk for 8 hours, pushing papers, doing quotes and phoning people up and trying to find leads and trying to run ads, and then gone into that side of things. And so it's different. And so you can even say it's the same in your relationship. Trying to do more of what's already not working won't get you the results that you want. It won't fix the relationship. It won't make you feel more connected. It won't make you feel more grounded. It won't make you feel more present. It won't fix the issue that is there. So the first part is that capability trap. And I definitely fell into that for many, many years, thinking that I had to do it all on my own, that like I needed to figure this out. Otherwise, I was stupid. Otherwise, I was no good. And I figured if I could just apply my work ethic to this, then I would get there. But that same work ethic was what was creating a lot of the problems, because what I used to have was a problem being present, a problem being still, a problem not functioning, running at 1,000,000 miles an hour, because I thought if I slowed down, if I wasn't doing something, that I was not earning my keep. I was not valuable. I was not worthy. And to then flip that and to realize that, no, actually what my wife does want from me is my grounded presence, is for me to be able to make a decision, to stick with it, to follow it through, to sit there and just allow her to experience her emotions without having to solve them, without having to give solutions, without having to either disconnect or do anything else, just to let it be, was a very weird experience, because most men feel very uncomfortable in those situations, feel uncomfortable with even the thought that they could be chosen and desired for who they are, not what they do. And that's quite difficult to wrap your head around, especially, and it's a unique situation because when we think about it, our partner, our wife, is the only person on this planet who has chosen to be in our life, who's chosen us for who we are, not what we provide. Like, you could argue that, yes, there's an element of utility. We help to provide finances, money. We help to provide, masculine energy and influence in raising the kids and leadership and, the one half of creating children and all that stuff. But in case it's not so obvious, there's a couple of billion people on this planet. She could find millions of other men that can do the exact same thing in those spaces. But she chose you for your uniqueness, for you. And unfortunately, that's the one thing that she's probably not getting. And so trying to do more chores, more provision, making more money, more around the house, more like of any of these other things that are just surface level, only ends up burning out the man, frustrating the both of you, and confusing the both of you, or confusing the man, because it's like, how much more do I have to do? Like, why is this not enough? And then eventually resentment creeps in and frustration. It's ultimately because it's not what she wants. It's not the currency that is required at home. Like in the home with our kids, with our wife, the currency is grounded presence. Masculine grounded presence is oranges. The currency at work is the performance, the work ethic is apples. And it doesn't matter how many apples you give them, it's not a fucking orange. So changing that, being aware of that, like how long we've been running the same system and not getting the results that we want. And one of the most common traits of nice guys is thinking that they have to do more. Like I definitely used to think this, that, okay, well, that wasn't enough. Maybe I need to be even nicer. Maybe I need to do even more. Maybe I need to say yes even more, give her what she wants even more, and keep pushing it down that road, rarely stopping to actually think, maybe what I'm doing isn't what she wants. Maybe what I'm doing is the problem. It's not that I'm not doing enough of it. It's that what I'm doing is wrong, that I need to change that and do something else. And just to be clear, this is not about what she wants. This is not about like the marriage side of things. This is how our way of thinking and how we're showing up. Yeah. And where that comes from a lot of the time is because most men don't have a model for masculine relational leadership. Like, think about your parents when you were kids. What was modeled to you on relationships, on masculine leadership, on masculine presence, on how to handle conflict, on how to handle emotions? If you're anything like me and a lot of the guys that I talk to, not much. Right? I used to joke that my parents were emotionally retarded. I've changed the language there to emotionally constipated. And that's just the way they are. And because the way of their parents were, because the way that they were raised, and so on and so forth. And so we then have no model of what this actually looks like. Either fathers were absent because of divorce, because of working, because of just, like in that situation, just emotionally unavailable, because they weren't raised on how to feel and understand and sit with emotions themselves. And so their demonstration of masculinity, of leadership, of being a provider, of being a husband, of being a father, is that provision equals leading, providing, and usually it's providing financially. It's no other level of provision. Staying calm means suppression, and then avoiding conflict is good, right? You say yes, happy wife, happy life. Everyone's heard that saying. Happy wife at whatever cost. Yes, dear, whatever you want. Here's the credit card. Totally up to you. You make the decisions and just give her everything she wants. Now, that might seem like a good plan, because if she gets everything she wants, how can she not be happy? Because she's not being able to decide everything is not what she wants. Having you decide, having you lead is probably what she wants if she's a feminine woman. And so ultimately, you can't replicate what you've never witnessed, what you've never experienced. And so if we have no reference point for what this looks like, that's why, like, not putting male role models, masculinity aside for a second, in just talking about relationships, how many relationships have you had that turned out exactly like your parents? You found a partner that was exactly like one of your parents, and you fought like them, or you got along like them, or you swept shit under the rug like them, or maybe you had amazing demonstration of what that relationship looks like, and that's what you got because that's what was modeled to you as a kid. So that's where we are. And so then it makes it very hard to know what that looks like. And as adults, okay, you can't just go back and say, like, Dad, be a better role model so I can see what this looks like. You can't just go and live with people that have that down pat and say, like, cool, model this for me so I can learn from you. But that's where people like coaches and mentors and asking for help and opening up to what that can look like comes into play. Like, what does a healthy navigation of conflict look like, or a healthy navigation of disagreement look like? How does the household, how do mum and dad communicate? Like, who leads, who provides directions? Like, what is, given to the mum or to the female to look after in terms of the house? How does the dad provide more than just finances? Like, how does he regulate his emotions that regulate the tone of the relationship of the house? How does he show up when the kid's having a tantrum, when everything's going to shit? We will model what was shown to us. And if you're listening to this, there's a chance that you have recognized that maybe some of these areas are not the way that not the role model or the example that you would like to be setting for your kids. And it's not the way that you would like to be experiencing life or your relationship. So now you're aware of it, we can start to then take action on it. First step is awareness. Second step is to do something about it. And it's not to go and consume more information. It's to actually take action. Right. And the third pillar, so the first one is the capability trap that men get stuck in. I need to figure this out on my own. The second area is the lack of model of masculine relationships and leadership in that space. And because of the feeling like they're capable enough, feeling like they need to figure it out on their own. But why reinvent the wheel? Other people have already figured it out. Go and learn from them. Imagine it takes you 10 years to figure it out. That's 10 years less that you get to enjoy having that, being that man, enjoying that caliber of relationship. I don't know about you, but I'd rather pay whatever I need to, learn from someone, figure it out in 1 year, and then I get to have 9 extra years with that level of connection, that level of presence, of intimacy, being that role model and that example for my kids for that extra time. That's my stance anyway. And then the next pillar is the what we have been rewarded and punished for. So in work, our nervous system and we as a whole are rewarded for control, for speed, for output, for problem solving, for go, get it done as fast as you can and just move on. Like that is the name of the game. So what gets you clients, what keeps you clients, what sets the standards, and it's very logical, like movement, go. Relationships require presence, require containment, emotional tolerance and capacity, and decisiveness without reassurance, decisiveness without control. Just a short break. If you're a man who's winning on paper, like the business is solid, the money is looked after, life looks good, but at home it feels distant, you feel disconnected, then this is for you. It's not like you want less responsibility. You just want to be able to handle more without getting reactive, checking out, or just getting tense. You want to stay calm in your wife's emotions. You want to be present with your kids, confident without performing, and ultimately respected and desired without having to prove your worth. But right now, it probably feels like you're holding it all together, maybe barely, or maybe you're still chasing it, but you haven't embodied it yet. Now, I'm running a free live masterclass called Evolve, where I break down how to build grounded masculine presence from the inside out. So your success stops costing you your marriage, your energy, and your self-respect so that you can be the man who does it all. If that hits, the link is in the show notes. Now back to the episode. And the emotional piece is something that most men were never rewarded for. They were never modeled and never rewarded for. So of course, how the fuck could we figure it out? How could anyone learn that or figure it out if they weren't modeled it, so they don't even know it exists at this point, and they were never rewarded for it? Pretty damn hard. And so the only level of failure in this, as you listen to this moving forward, is knowing this stuff and then not doing anything about it. Because imagine you get to your deathbed and you're like, oh yeah, I know what I should have done. I know that this was not as great as it should have been. I know I could have been better here, or I should have done that different. And imagine having to die with that, to die knowing that you knew what you could have done, that you could have been better, but you didn't. And in my eyes, that's the only way that you can really fail as a parent, is knowing that you could be better, but choosing not to because of whatever limiting belief that we tell ourselves. And so the mismatch in this reward and punishment, this reward system, is that in work, you are optimized for certainty, right? I need to control the controllables to get the desired outcome. I know if I put this in, I get that out. Like that's pretty certain. Intimacy and emotions by nature are uncertain. This comes back to a level of control. That's why it feels so scary for a lot of guys, because it's uncertain and they want to control it. So we fake things. We make things up to create a perceived level of certainty, a perceived level of control. But when your nervous system is built for winning, not staying present when those emotions rise. And again, this is not something that is so far eluded from you that you can never have. You can train this. when you understand it, when you have someone to walk you through this, you are a very capable human being. You have the skill set, you have the raw data. It's about learning this. And trust me, the amount of guys that have had that belief of, but if I if I if I tap into those emotions, if I allow those, if I open that Pandora's box and allow that at home, is that going to make me weak at work? Is that going to make me a crybaby? Is it going to make me soft? Is that going to am I going to lose my edge and the traits that have got me to success? It's like, no, not at all. It's not about one or the other. The quest in personal growth and personal development, in my eyes, is range. Like, as a man, we want to be a craftsman, a master craftsman of ourself, of our traits, and of our parts that we can use as tools. So we know when to be aggressive. We know when to be calm. We know when to be present and still versus when to be direct and brutal. Like, that containment and that context in which we use each one is the difference between a man who is masterfully dangerous and a man who has no control at all, who is weak. He doesn't suppress his anger or his aggression because he's dangerous, but because he doesn't know how to wield it. And there is a massive difference in that. And I know the type of man that I want to be. So when we start to wield those traits, yes, it's uncomfortable. Like anything new, it feels unfamiliar. Right? I'm sitting still. This is all I'm meant to do. Like, I should be doing something. I need to be productive, be busy. Amazing. Those parts are going to come out left, right, and center to keep you moving, to go back into that known area. Just breathe. So these nice guy traits won't disappear with more success. The reactivity that you experience won't disappear when you get to a certain level of income, a certain level of business or life status. They just get more sophisticated. Your challenges just escalate with a different level of game, essentially. So even though you can be highly disciplined, you can be externally confident, you can avoid relational risk but ultimately that comes from confusing being agreeable with being grounded, confusing being calm and grounded with suppression. Right? They are not the same thing. And so when we can lean into those, we don't have to avoid this conflict. We don't have to avoid these nice guy traits when we can understand them and know that, cool, these traits aren't a weakness. These traits aren't something to hate, something to banish. These are parts that have kept me safe, that have protected me. But now their time is up. And it's levels, right? The traits, these parts that kept you safe and did their job when we were young, when they were first incepted, were relevant at that time. But now that you're a fully grown man who can drive a car, who can run a business, who can look after himself, who is independent, the same modeling system doesn't work anymore, right? And so it's just updating the system. So recognizing that those traits of being a nice guy are addressable one by one. It's not a label. Being a nice guy isn't a weak stereotype, despite what some people might perceive. It's just a system of protective mechanisms. And that's all. And that understanding, if you want to go deeper into that, I did an episode a couple of weeks ago about breaking that down. And that will really help, I think, for a lot of people, systemize the process to make it a lot more tangible, especially if you have a logical brain like I do. Almost there. Then the next reason that a lot of guys stay stuck is they have no feedback loop, right? They have no one to challenge them on their thinking, on why they're doing what they're doing, or the fact that they've been doing the same shit, or they're in the same position as they were last week, last month, last year. And they stay stuck because no one is around to hold that standard up. You hold the high standard at work in other areas, and when it comes home or in your personal life, you don't have that group of friends. Like most men have one, if that, high caliber friend. That friend that you can call rain, hail, or shine, the friend that you can talk to about anything, the friend that will call you out on your bullshit. Like that's a high caliber friend. Not many men have that. Most friends will just joke about it, talk shit, avoid the conflict, avoid the topic, normalize the dysfunction and just make light of it. And because, again, they haven't been through it themselves, they don't really know how to handle that. The emotions make them uncomfortable. So that's what they think they're meant to do. As a mate, you just, you'll be right, mate. And then tell some joke and then move on. So because we don't have that, we still run everything through that same lens. You stay in the self-analysis, like trying to consume more, trying to work on yourself by consuming this, changing micro things, but without any embodiment. Right? You might do the ice bars or the breath work or like that kind of stuff, but there's no parts work. There's no identity level change. There's no embodiment. And so everything still feels like a performance. And the insight, the information that you consume without any challenge, without any friction, without any standards to rise to be better, it feels productive, but it changes nothing. And that's why it's so frustrating when you're in the same position a few months from now. And the scariest part, why a lot of men stay stuck, is the identity cost of change. Growth threatens the identity that made you successful, that got you to this point. What if I change and my wife doesn't love me? What if I change and I'm no good at business? What if I do this and this other dire thing happens? Right? If I become emotional, then I'll lose my edge at work. If I stop fixing everything, then I'll lose control and I won't know who I am or what to do. I won't be useful anymore. If I stop being agreeable, then I'll be rejected. Oh, my wife won't love me. And so you stay stuck, staying the same, feeling safer rather than feeling uncomfortable and growing. Tony Robbins has that quote, until the pain of change outweighs the pain of staying the same, you won't change. So there's a level of comfort in the known, in who you are right now, right? Sure, it's not as good as you'd like it to be, but it's not that bad. There's a level of certainty there. If you change, there's a fuckload more certainty. Like, yes, it might be better, but we have no idea that it may not be 10x worse than this. And that's what keeps a lot of guys stuck, keeps them in the comfort zone. And then the mistake a lot of these men say is like, oh, I'll just keep working on it. Eventually something else will happen and it'll just click into place. But time won't resolve this. It will just solidify it. You'll just have more and more reps to prove that this is who you are. This is how you respond. This is how you do things. This is the state of your marriage. The pattern's deeper. The polarity in your relationship erodes even further. The kids will learn your model that you learned from your parents, not the one that you're trying to change. And then the resentment just accumulates. You become roommates, you become frustrated, bitter, resentful, more so at yourself because you haven't changed, but that gets projected out into kids and to your wife. And then you grow up to be a grumpy old man. And that's not fun. The unaddressed patterns that are running in your life right now don't stay neutral. They don't just stay there. They deepen and they compound. So most men, most capable men, aren't stuck because they're broken, aren't stuck because they're not good enough. They're stuck because they've outgrown the tools that built their life. Phase 2 of masculinity isn't about trying harder. It's about leading differently. Leading yourself, leading your marriage, leading your household. And the men who figure this out early don't just save their marriage. That's a nice byproduct. But they reclaim themselves. They live in congruency with who they are, authentically who they are without wearing a mask. And that provides a level of freedom that nothing externally can buy. So if your life feels pretty stable, but at home and in yourself, you know that something is still off, this is the work. Don't be sorry. Be better.